Hello my dear viewers, today we're gonna take a look at a history of Central Europe with countries such as Germany, Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg, Austria, Switzerland and Bohemia. If for those who are asking why I didn't include Poland in Central Europe, is because, well, I see them in this format as a bit wrong. I want to combine them with the Baltic states or Ukraine or Belarus because I think they have more history with those areas than Germany. Getting this one out of the way, let's jump into geography of Central Europe. If you don't know where Central Europe is, well, it's here on the map. I'm just showing it to you. Okay, let's start with the mountains. From the south, we have the biggest mountain range in the entire Europe called Alps, and from the north or more eastern part, we have the Sudets or Sudeten, however you call them. Central Europe is also split into three main rivers, first and biggest one being the Rhine, the second one being the Elbe, and the third, splitting the Poland of Germany, being the Oder. And all this grassland running through the place is called Northern European Plain. How original. Getting this one out of the way, we can start finally drawing the cultures and begin with the history of the region. Let's start from the most northern group, Ingvaeonic group, that will be Frisians, Saxons and Proto-Anglos, just living together as same linguistic groups. Well, not really living together, but being separate tribes, and then their identities becoming more and more separate in the upcoming ages, and this will also apply to the other linguistic groups in the Germany. The next group on our list is Istvaeonic, that is, well, Proto-Franks. Yep, that's about it. I have literally nothing else to say about them, because yeah, that's about it. They are just Franks and quotation mark Old Dutch. But I think just that's a LARP. That's a LARP made by Germans and the Dutch people. That is not real. They are just fucking Frisians LARPing, and that they are not Frisian. And that's about it. Next on our list is Irmionic Germanic or Ionic Germanic. These guys are literally responsible for how Europe looks like nowadays. And I mean, well, Western Europe. That is Germany, Austria, Switzerland, and Italy, because of the Lombards, of course. So they are the most important group in Western Europe ever, except the Northern Germanic, which will invade later on England and become, well, English. Wow, would have thought. Before I'm gonna jump into the Celts and other groups in Germany and Central Europe, I want to tell you that all those Germanic groups I talked about, they have their own languages, which are separate enough to be, well, their own kind of cultures. So let's say Ingvaeonic doesn't understand the Northern Germanic, because they speak, well, two different dialects that are, well, too far away from each other somehow. And because, well, Franks sounded very differently from, like, Saxons. But I think that at those early times, up to like 200s or 100 AD, they were one just linguistic group that later on very split because of isolation, because those groups are very tight together and they are just like dialects of each other, so they basically can understand each other. It's not like Western Slavic and Eastern Slavic. It's just a dialect of one language at the time. So there you have it. Okay, the germs are done and dusted. Let's jump into the Celtoids. Our first Celtic boys are Boyans. That is, well, the Czech Celts. That is, well, they are located in the modern-day Czech Republic. They are not Slavs. The gods of chaos haven't yet spawned the Slavs to destroy the known world as we love. So let's talk about the boy, because they have a pretty interesting story. Their first migration into Italy, yes, Italy started into Po Valley, I believe in 390 BC. They of course started attacking everybody and occupying a bit of terrain in Po Valley, which is, well, what they wanted, fair enough. They were hanging in there for a very long time, because until the Carthaginian War and Hannibal Barca moving through the Alps, he allied them when he passed through the area, invaded into, well, Italy. Then the Italians, of course, beat him back, and they invaded, of course, the Latins, into the Po Valley, pushing the beautiful boy out of their habitat into two groups. One into the Gaul, which survived until the Caesar's conquest of it, when they helped, well, try killing Caesar. Wow. The other group survived till the 8 AD, when they decided, well, it's fun to attack the Dacians, and they lost. And that was it. they stopped existing in well, large groups. We have still like a bit of here and there of them, but they were gone. They were mostly exterminated by now. So there you have it, the boy. Next group is Ubian. That's a pretty weird name. Try to do research on them because there's not much written about them, and there is a mention by the Caesar that they are Germanic, but they are not Germanic. There is literally nothing I can say about them. Just they're a placeholder, whatever. After this amazing summary, let's jump into the Helvetian culture, which wasn't a culture, but a federation by the time Romans got to them. So the actual culture groups that were made of, well, them are unknown to us because, well, who would have known that Celts didn't write and Germanics didn't write and anybody didn't write? So we have nothing. From the records of the Romans, we know that they were pretty much rich and peaceful, which is quite something you wouldn't expect from the Celts. But yeah, I guess they were, and because they were peaceful, they were almost wiped out by the Germanic tribes, and eventually, well, they all were. The lesson of the day: don't be peaceful and don't be rich, and especially be mean to each other in the comment section, but not to me, towards each other. Yeah. Situated eastwards from the Helvetii are Norics, pretty crafty bunch from, well, sources of the Romans, of course. They were mostly trading in salt, but also they were amazing smiths for some reason, and that's why they were conquered by the Romans. Well, apparently, I think Romans just killed them because they were mean, that Germany didn't work out for them. I just want to say for the record that Germans didn't finish the job with the Norics. Actually, it was the Slavs a few hundred years later when they arrived into the area, so yeah, the story of those mighty people ended in 500 or 600 AD when the Slavs decide to move in because they can. That's it. Least and last, we have Belgae, the Celts in modern-day Belgium and abroad. Although to call them Celts is a bit wrong because they are not Celts, they are not Gauls, they're their own thing, and that's about it. There's nothing more I can say about them. Finally, we can jump into the video and talk about the dates in history after like 8 minutes. Amazing! I wanted to choose this date because it suits the video the most. What I mean is that nothing really happens in Germania. Nothing ever happens, it's so over. Because the next 100 years is Romans coming to Gaul and Noricum and surrounding areas and surrounding Germania, and we start, well, knowing what is going on in there. Okay, so what happened in 150 BC? Well, the Germanics, or probably in 200 BC, started migrating southwards and killing the Celts. So we see a push out of the Celts into the Gaul, into the Italy, into everywhere, because the Germans are pushing them out or, well, absorbing them into their own tribes. And the most famous migration of the Germanics that is, well, documented and we know of is the Cimbrian War, when Teutones and Cimbrians decide to migrate into the Roman territory in today's modern-day Provence. You cannot see them on the map I made because their migration didn't start in modern-day Germany or Belgium or anywhere. It started from the modern-day Denmark, which is a terrible place to live in. Yes, Rome did win the war, who would have guessed? So you might ask, maybe for the casualties of the war. Well, we don't know, but the entire Teutones and Cimbrian tribe was wiped out of the face of the earth. Although their children and women killed themselves not to fall into slavery, so yeah. So let's jump many years into the future when Caesar conquers the Gaul. That is 50 BC. By this time, Germanic tribes are already on the border with the Roman Empire. I'm not talking about Rhine, but also like province of Noricum or Helvetia, where they were already settled on the borders there. Also, the Bohemia got wiped out by the Germans, and Bohemia is now Macromania and is Germanic. We don't know where they got there, it's unknown. Was it the 200 BC? Was it the 100 BC? Maybe it was the 50s or 80s BC? Who knows? They just were there by the time Romans got there, and that's about it. Big F in the chat for my Belgae tribes, but it's not video about France, but North Central Europe or Germany. I want to give you a quick recap of the factions around, because now we can say what they are. What I mean is, I need to redraw all of this to show you what countries or tribes there are. Not just West Germanics, East Germanic, Bohemian or something, just mashup. Well, there will be a bit of mashup because of the unknown territory, but I'll do my best, I promise. Okay, let's get through those tribes real quick. So here we have Frisians, then we have Chambi, then we have Sciambri, then we have Chatia, then we have Alemanni, then we have Suebi, Macromania, Heramundia, Lombardy, Semnonia, Varinia, Rugiland, Saxony, Hotchia, Anglia. Imagine if I spent another 10 minutes ranting about them. I have no time for that. Yes, and the date is 12 BC, that is the start of German-Roman War and that famous forest we all heard about. I totally didn't forget about Angria and Cheruskia. Now we have all the tribes. All I'm saying is they put something in the water to make you forget. Actually, the map looked like this because Noricum and Raetia was conquered by the Romans in 16 BC. Also, province of Illyria was added to the Roman Empire. In 12 BC, the Germanic Wars began with Drusus invading into Germania. He did a pretty damn good job at, well, killing and subjugating all those Germoids. But the problem was that after some time, he decided to leave Germania because he got bored of it. And the only good, well, general had fallen off his horse and died on his way to home. I'm not making this up. Bro had a fucking Genghis Khan type of death, bro. It's so over Roman bros. So then Tiberius takes over the, well, German provinces. The Germans don't like him because he, well, crosses them. Ha, pun intended. So the Germans start, well, revolting here and there and start plotting against the Romans. Although after some time, that is from 4 to 8 AD, Tiberius had to leave Germania in the hands of Arminius to kill some Illyrians because they started revolting. The Great Illyrian Revolt, I talked about it in my previous video about Pannonia. So the Germanic provinces were given or handed over to Varus. Varus had different ideas on the Germania. He wanted, well, to make them a bit more civilized. He was given 2 legions, or, well, strength of 2 legions, 20,000 men, and started ruling over Germania. But as things always don't work out for anybody in this world, in 9 AD the Germanics decided to ambush him in a funny forest, kill all his 20,000 men. Wow, 20,000 Romans in just one day? I don't know, man, the numbers don't add up. And with these disasters, Romans no longer were in charge of Germania. Romans did try to avenge the Teutoburg forest, which to some degree they were successful, but later on they decided to just stay behind the river and not do much with Germania anymore. Not much was happening for most of the time until the year 74 AD, when Romans conquered Alemannia, or part of it, for themselves. The Roman Emperor Domitian at the time had a brilliant thought of just pushing into German territory to push the Germans as far as away from Rome, from the city. So that's what he did. He just, well, invaded into Alemanni territory and built a wall in their territory. And that's how it stayed for quite some time. Then again, nothing was happening for a very long time until 262 AD, when Gallic Empire was proclaimed as a rebellion against Rome. They survived quite some time because they fallen in 274 AD, which is a pretty long time, but they achieved nothing, so that's about it. But while the rebellion was happening in Gaul, Iberia and Britain, that is a Gallic Empire one, the Alemanni invaded while the rebellion was happening, got their lands back, and Rome would never take the Alemanni land ever again. In 280s, the Burgundians started marching onward to the west, or at least that's what we think, but probably Burgundians were still in Poland at the time, so I'm not gonna touch on the subject too much, but I think they started migrating into German territory by this time, and they were slowly revealing themselves as a new threat to the empire. Although take that with a grain of salt, because I don't really know, or anybody knows when they started migrating into Germania, so it's just a game for you. And in the 290, the Frankish kingdom or federation was established by the 2 Germanic groups, the Chamvi and the Sciambri. We already know where this is going. Oh yeah, by the year 300, the Federation of Saxons got a bit bigger by invading its neighbors, and well, now they were one of the main players in the region. And I must say, a lot of those so-called federations started calling themselves kingdoms, so we can see the early beginnings beginnings of medieval Europe, that is, well, Dark Ages medieval Europe. In 350 AD, the Alemanni got a bit of land from Rome to settle as Foedorati, but de facto land was still controlled by them. Same happened with the Saulian Franks, which also were given Foedorati land for killing few rebels in Gaul, but that happened 8 years later. We see appearance in Germania of a new tribe called Thuringi, but we will know them in the later centuries as Kingdom of Thuringia. Moving on to the year 395 AD and the split of Roman Empire, we can see also changes not in the, well, how empire now functions, but in the Germanic tribes. As we can see, the Burgundians are now on the border with the Roman Empire, and the Saxony is even bigger. We can also see that the Lombards have pushed into Macroman territory, pushing them onto the Roman frontier and, well, Roman Empire, but not also them. The Vandals from Silesia came into the, well, also Macromanian territory and settled on the border with the Roman Empire. Yes, Nahra Valley also don't exist anymore, but the reality is they joined up with the Lombards. Well, most of them did, because some of them still stayed in their territory and became subjects of those who, well, now control it. Sadly, but I have to end the video here, because it will be a very long video, and it will take a very long time to release as well, because, well, I have to go to the job, sadly. I wish I had more time on my hands to make these videos, because I actually enjoy making them, but I guess it is what it is. If you enjoyed the video and you think it's reasonable to share it with someone, then do it and spread the message. Thank you for watching. See you in the part 2 or other video I'm gonna make.